I got to say, you've really outdone yourself with these sources this time. Wow.
Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good.
Well, we're diving into AI and intelligence.
Always a fun topic.
But with this pasted text source you threw in, I'm starting to think this whole deep dive is about how dumb we are.
You're right. There's a lot here about AI and intelligence and whether tech makes us sharper or, well, not.
Right. So we've got, let me see, excerpts from Information Age and Mind Cafe, that piece on the laws of human stupidity, which should be interesting.
Oh, yeah.
A Medium article by a digital anthropologist.
Sounds intense.
And that very academic paper from Harvard. Phew.
This is going to be fun.
Fun is one word for it.
Okay, so where do we even begin?
Let's start with that Medium article. The author doesn't seem to think AI will doom us to, stupidity.
Really?
Yeah, they actually compare all the AI panic to those old fears about the telephone, back when people thought it'd make us all dumber.
Huh, the telephone making people dumber.
Yeah.
That's a new one. But the author's right. Humans are adaptable.
Okay, true.
We don't just passively absorb technology, right?
Yeah.
We shape it. We find new ways to use it. I mean, for crying out loud, people thought telephones would let us talk to the dead.
Okay, point taken. We can be clever. Sometimes.
Sometimes.
But what about that Information Age excerpt?
Oh, yeah.
The professor in that piece noticed students' writing was getting better, but there was a catch, right?
Big catch. It was the AI tools doing the heavy lifting.
So not actually smarter students.
Not necessarily. The tools were doing the thinking for them. Kind of makes you wonder, are we just getting really good at using AI to hide our own shortcomings? Intellectually speaking, I mean.
Ooh, that hits a little too close to home.
No.
I rely on spell check way more than I should.
Me too.
But is that actually making me dumber? Or just, more efficient? What do you think, listener?
Mm-hmm.
Are you using AI as a crutch? Or is it actually helping you, learn and grow? Something to think about. But okay, let's shift gears for a sec and look at that Harvard paper.
Big brain time.
Right. So it argues that human intelligence isn't really about individual brilliance. It's more about our ability to, learn from each other and build on knowledge over time. Generations, even.
They call it the cultural brain hypothesis. Really.
Yeah, the cultural brain. So basically, we're smart because we're good at sharing knowledge. As a species, I mean.
Exactly. It's not about how big your brain is. It's about how wide it can tap into this network of, other minds.
So, I'm not a genius on my own, but I can access the collective genius of humanity through, books, articles, talk to smart people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ouch. But yes, you're getting the gist of it. And they even found that immigration actually boosts innovation. More diverse minds in a community, more sparks flying around, makes you wonder if AI, which tends to create those echo chambers,
Yeah, good point.
might actually hinder that collective brain power in the long run.
That is fascinating. So maybe AI makes us individually dumber, but then helps us collectively by connecting us with more information. And other minds. This is getting complicated.
Hold on, there's more. The Harvard paper also says too much connection can be a bad thing.
Really?
Yeah, if everyone's on the same page all the time, we can get stuck with bad solutions. Remember when everyone was obsessed with gas-powered cars? For, a century?
Even though electric cars had potential back then.
Exactly.
I guess that was us being, collectively dumb.
Maybe.
But, okay, we talked about the collective. What about individual stupidity?
You just can't let that one go, can you?
We have to talk about Carlos Chapola, right? And his 5 basic laws of human stupidity. I mean, come on, it's practically in our job description at this point.
I was hoping we could avoid that one. Fine. But I'm blaming you when listeners start calling us imbeciles.
Deal.
Okay, so Cipolla basically says there are 4 types of people. You got your intelligent people, your bandits.
Hey, bandits.
It's a metaphor, bear with me. Your helpless people, and then, of course, the stupid ones.
And the scariest thing about stupid people, according to Cipolla, I mean.
They're totally unpredictable. You can't strategize against someone who, makes decisions based on nothing.
Ugh, I know the type.
Speaking of which, you still haven't told me where you think we fall on Cipolla's scale of intelligence. Be honest, are you judging my intelligence right now?
Maybe a little.
I knew it.
Just kidding. But actually, that Mind Cafe article gives a pretty helpful framework for understanding stupidity. They say it comes down to 3 things: distraction, lack of control, and then ignorance mixed with overconfidence.
Okay, now that I can relate to.
Me too. I'm definitely easily distracted. Ooh, look, a squirrel. And overconfident. Remember that time I tried to fix my own plumbing?
Let's not revisit that disaster.
Let's just say there was a lot of water and not a lot of fixing.
We've all been there. But here's the real question. Is AI pushing us further into those, stupidity zones? Are we so distracted by notifications, so reliant on algorithms to make decisions?
So overconfident in the information we're fed.
Exactly. Are we losing the ability to think for ourselves?
Yeah.
It's a scary thought, right? The tools that are supposed to make us smarter might actually be making us dumber.
Well, that digital anthropologist we talked about from the Medium piece, they wouldn't agree with you there. They'd say AI won't doom us to stupidity because, humans are good at adapting. To new tech, I mean.
Yeah, they keep coming back to that telephone example.
Right.
How people thought it'd lead to us, talking to the dead or becoming hermits. But we figured it out. Found new ways to communicate, built new social structures.
So you're saying we're smart enough to avoid the AI stupidity trap? I'm not sure I buy that.
I'm saying we have the potential, but we have to be mindful. And this is where that collective brain idea from the Harvard paper is really important. If our intelligence comes from, networks of knowledge and skills.
Shared skills.
Right, shared skills. Then what happens when those networks are shaped by algorithms?
Wait, you're suggesting AI could, change the very nature of intelligence?
Think about it. Algorithms are designed to optimize for specific things. But those things might not be what's best for, human intelligence. What if AI just feeds us information that keeps us glued to our screens, but doesn't make us any smarter?
Okay, now that is a depressing thought. It's like we're handing our brains over to, the algorithm overlords.
And what about that diversity of thought that the Harvard study talked about?
Right.
AI has a tendency to create echo chambers, feeds us more of what we already agree with, which doesn't really help with, critical thinking or being exposed to different perspectives.
So we're back to square one, huh? Is AI making us dumber? Seems like the evidence is mixed, but I'm starting to lean towards... Yeah, probably, at least in some ways.
It's not a simple yes or no, though. It's not that AI is inherently evil or, designed to make us dumb.
Right.
It's how we use it. If we use it as a crutch, if we let it make decisions for us.
Let it dictate what we see and hear.
Exactly. Then yeah, absolutely. It can make us less intelligent and less capable.
So, okay, what's the solution? How do we navigate this whole AI world without, losing our minds?
It's going to take a multi-pronged approach. First, we need to invest in education that emphasizes critical thinking.
Critical thinking.
Problem solving, creativity. We need to teach people how to evaluate information, identify bias, how to think for themselves.
So a complete overhaul of the education system. Good luck with that. Look how many people believe everything they read on social media.
Which brings us to the second part, media literacy. We need to teach people how to be smarter about the information they consume, how to recognize misinformation and propaganda, how to basically look at the digital landscape with a critical eye.
And all of this while trying not to fall into those stupidity traps ourselves. This is a lot of pressure.
It is, but the stakes are high. We're talking about the future of, human intelligence. If we don't want to end up as, screen-addicted zombies, incapable of independent thought.
Okay, deep breaths, everyone. We're not going full dystopian sci-fi just yet, but seriously, listener, what do you think? Are we headed towards AI-induced stupidity, or can we use this technology for good?
Let's take a step back. What does it even mean to be smart in the age of AI?
Ooh, good question.
Is it about having all the answers right there on your phone? Or is it about knowing what questions to ask, knowing how to, evaluate information critically and using your own brain, even when you have access to these powerful AI tools?
You're onto something. Maybe smartness in the AI age isn't about memorizing facts or knowing how to code. Maybe it's about, the fundamentals, curiosity, critical thinking, and connecting with other humans in, meaningful ways.
I like that. Maybe true intelligence isn't about beating the machines. It's about remembering what makes us human.
And maybe, just maybe, accepting that we're all a little bit stupid sometimes.
I'd argue that some of us are more prone to those stupid moments than others.
Okay, we'll save that debate for later.
Yes, nobody's perfect.
All right, before we get too philosophical here, let's bring this back down to earth. You've given us a lot to think about, education, media literacy. But what about, the average person? What can we do? The regular non-geniuses, maybe a little bit dummy folks, to make sure we're using AI to make us smarter, not dumber.
That is the question, isn't it? The million-dollar question. It all comes back to mindfulness, really. We have to be aware of how we're using AI and make conscious choices, about when to lean on it and when to actually use our brains.
So, maybe don't Google every little thing. I know I'm guilty of that. Instead of trying to remember something, I just grab my phone and Bam. Instant answer. But I'm actually learning anything? Probably not.
Exactly. You got to challenge yourself, trying to remember things, work through problems, engage in some deep thought without immediately, running to an algorithm. It's like anything else. You don't use it, you lose it.
Put down the phone, pick up a book, got it.
Yeah.
What else? How else can we avoid becoming, those AI dummies?
Be critical of the information that AI gives you, I mean. Algorithms are designed to show you what they think you want to see. Which isn't always what's true, right?
Right.
And remember those echo chambers we talked about?
Yeah.
They can really reinforce biases.
Yeah.
And you don't get exposed to different points of view.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I definitely fall into those rabbit holes sometimes,
Yeah.
clicking from one article to the next. And they all say the same thing. Pretty soon I'm convinced the earth is flat or that cats are going to take over the world.
Yeah. See? That's the algorithm at work. It's feeding you what it thinks you'll like. Doesn't matter if it's actually true or not. So you got to be careful. Seek out information from different sources, fact check what you read, and most importantly, be open to viewpoints that are different from your own.
Yeah, that's tough sometimes.
It is. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's how you learn.
This whole conversation, it's making me think that maybe smartness in the AI age isn't about avoiding AI altogether. It's about AI literacy, like knowing how these algorithms work, how they influence us, how to use them without becoming, totally dependent on them.
Now you're getting it. We need to be smart about AI. Educated, empowered users, not just passive consumers. Think of it like learning to drive a car. You don't just hop in and expect to know what you're doing, right? You got to learn the rules of the road, how to handle the car, how to stay safe.
Okay, so it's driver's ed, but for AI. Sign me up. But seriously, it's got me thinking, like really thinking. So we've got this excerpt, right? It's comparing two people. Calls them both dummies.
Right.
But then it throws in this curveball. Who's the bigger dummy?
Ah, I see where this is going. Gets you thinking, huh?
Totally. But here's the thing that really gets me.
Yeah.
This excerpt claims both these dummies are involved in this whole exercise.
Interesting.
And the bigger dummy, well, that's the one reading this right now.
So that makes us, or the listener, the dummy.
I mean, does that make us the dummies for talking about it? Or does you listening right now? I don't know.
Haha, right. I think that's the point. It's not really about pointing fingers and saying you're the dummy. It's more about using this label, dummy, to make us question how we even judge intelligence in the first place. That feeling of being a dummy is something we all experience. It's part of the learning process, that humbling realization that we don't have all the answers.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this whole thing so relatable.
Right.
Because we all have those moments.
Absolutely. We all start somewhere. And the more we learn, the more we realize there's always more to discover.
It's like that saying, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Exactly.
So I guess the big takeaway here isn't about actually labeling anyone as a dummy.
Right.
It's more about challenging our assumptions about intelligence.
That's right. Yeah.
About embracing that we're all constantly learning and growing.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a really interesting question to ponder. If we can accept the idea that in some way we're all dummies because we're all still learning, what does that say about the nature of knowledge itself?
Whoa. Mind blown.
Like, is true wisdom actually about recognizing what we don't know? Is it about embracing our limitations and being open to new ideas?
That's a great point. Maybe being a dummy isn't a bad thing after all. Maybe it's the key to unlocking a whole new level of understanding.
Maybe that's where true brilliance lies. In the humility of knowing that we don't have all the answers.
So, to all our listeners out there, don't be afraid to embrace your inner dummy. Go out there, ask questions, be curious, and never stop learning.